Disgusting parasites shouldn't contaminate decent people. Victoria Sinclair's words sliced through the charity gala as $300 Chateau Margaux exploded across Maya Johnson's dress. The wine hit like blood against cream cashmere. Jessica Sinclair's stiletto crushed Maya's phone. Glass shards scattered. "Did I break your food stamp phone, ghetto trash?" Richard Sinclair beckoned security with a dismissive wave. "Drag this filth out before it infects our children." Michael held his live stream higher. "Everyone watches us dispose of human garbage." 2,000 viewers and counting. Maya stood motionless in the wine-soaked ruins of her dignity. She reached into her clutch, fingers finding platinum metal most guests couldn't identify. Her voice stayed level. "Interesting evening." The Sinclair family exchanged smug glances. They had no idea what was coming. Have you ever been so underestimated that one phone call could destroy everything they built? Timeline, 9:47 p.m., 13 minutes until keynote speech. The wine stain spread like shame across Maya's chest. Victoria Sinclair circled her prey, designer heels clicking against marble. Her voice carried to every corner of the ballroom. "Jessica, fetch this creature a kitchen towel. That's where it belongs anyway." Jessica's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "Mother, that vintage Margaux is wasted on something that probably drinks toilet wine." 200 guests formed a loose circle. Phones emerged from Hermes bags and Armani pockets. The digital coliseum was opening. Richard Sinclair spotted Marcus Wells, the gala manager, and waved him over with imperial authority. "Marcus!" This individual clearly wandered in through the wrong entrance. Staff access is through the service corridor. Wells hurried across the marble floor, tablet clutched against his chest. "Ma'am, I'm terribly sorry for the confusion. Could I see your invitation? This is a $10,000 per plate event." Maya's fingers found her clutch. The wine had missed it entirely. "Of course. Don't bother checking," Victoria interrupted, her voice dripping with contempt. "Look at that discount dress. Look at those pathetic pearls. This is charity fraud." Michael Sinclair held his iPhone at perfect live stream angle. The viewer count climbed 2,400, 2,600, 2,847 people watching live. Comments flooded the screen faster than he could read them. "Get her out, El Mayu. Wine stains show her true level. Security should arrest for trespassing. Staff entrance." "Everyone say hello to our uninvited entertainment," Michael announced to his followers. The help spilled wine on themselves. So embarrassing. He panned the camera across Maya's wine-soaked dress, then zoomed in on her face. She stood perfectly still, expression unreadable. The silence stretched uncomfortably long. Victoria broke it with surgical precision. "You know what I find fascinating?" The audacity. Crashing our event, ruining a $300 bottle, then standing there like you belong. She turned to address the growing crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when charity becomes too accessible. Standards disappear. Murmurs rippled through the audience. A few uncomfortable laughs. Someone whispered, 'Should we call the police?' Richard raised his champagne flute high enough for everyone to see. "A toast, everyone, to maintain standards." 50 crystal glasses lifted in unison. The message was clear. We are them, you are not. Maya's phone buzzed in her clutch. A text from an unknown number. "Ma'am, the live stream is trending number 4 nationally. Should I intervene?" "David," she typed back quickly. "Not yet. Let them dig deeper." Marcus Wells cleared his throat nervously. "Ma'am, about that invitation." "Marcus," Victoria's voice sharpened. "Surely you can see this situation requires immediate resolution. Our donors shouldn't have to witness this." Maya reached for her purse again. This time she withdrew a small leather folder, real leather, not the synthetic kind. As she opened it, something metallic caught the chandelier light. "Here's my identification," she said quietly. Wells reached for the folder, but Victoria intercepted it with a dramatic gasp. Oh my God. Everyone, look at this. She held up Maya's business card holder platinum with an engraved logo barely visible in the lighting. She's counterfeiting premium accessories now. This is criminal. The crowd pressed closer, phones angled for better shots. Jessica snatched the card holder from her mother's hands. Is that supposed to be Cartier? The engraving is completely wrong. Tragic. She tossed it onto the wine-stained marble. The metallic clatter echoed through the ballroom. Maya's phone buzzed again. This time the caller ID read, Legal Department, Priority 1. She declined the call. 10 minutes left, Richard announced, consulting his Patek Philippe. 10 minutes for our guest to find the exit before we involve actual security. The countdown had begun. Victoria stepped closer, close enough that Maya could smell her Chanel number. 5. Let me explain something, dear. This room represents 300 years of American excellence. Oil, steel, banking, innovation. You represent... She gestured dismissively. Nothing. My great-grandfather built the first oil refinery in Texas, Victoria continued, her voice taking on the cadence of a lecture. My husband's family owned half of Pittsburgh's steel mills. Our children will inherit empires. She leaned in conspiratorially, but spoke loud enough for the cameras. What will your children inherit? Debt? Dysfunction? The same failures that brought you here tonight? The cruelty was surgical, precise, designed to cut deepest where it couldn't be seen bleeding. Maya's watch caught the light, a detail only she noticed. The Patek Philippe Grandmaster chime showed exactly 9:52 p.m. exactly. In the crowd's frenzy to document her humiliation, no one recognized the $2.5 million timepiece on her wrist. Her phone vibrated with another text. All 847 contracts ready for review. Singapore acquisition on hold pending your authorization. P. Kim, General Counsel. Maya typed back, Execute Protocol 7 in exactly 8 minutes. Authorization, Thunderbird. Michael's live stream had reached 3,200 viewers. The comments were no longer just cruel, they were creative in their cruelty. Someone call animal control. This is why we need better security. Rich people problems. She probably has a GoFundMe. 7 minutes, Richard announced. Victoria turned to the crowd with theatrical flourish. Ladies, gentlemen, let's give our unexpected visitor exactly 7 minutes to find the exit before we call professional security. The audience began counting down like New Year's Eve in reverse. Some held up their fingers. Others checked their Rolexes and carriers. 7 minutes, 6 minutes, 30 seconds. Maya stood in the center of it all, wine-stained and surrounded, seemingly powerless. She checked her phone one more time. The screen showed a single message. All systems green. Legal standing by. Ready on your signal. Patricia Kim, Johnson Holdings. Maya slipped the phone back into her clutch and smiled just barely, just enough for the cameras to catch. She had no intention of leaving. 9:58 p.m., 12 minutes until keynote. Jennifer Reeves materialized beside Marcus Wells like reinforcement arriving at a battlefield. The hotel's general manager surveyed the wine-stained scene with practiced crisis management eyes. Ma'am, she addressed Maya with the careful tone reserved for potential lawsuits, I see there's been a beverage incident. Perhaps we could arrange alternative accommodations for you this evening? Maya's response came without hesitation. I appreciate your hospitality standards. Wine service is everything in this industry. Victoria's laugh rang sharp as crystal breaking. Finally, someone who understands quality control. Remove this contamination immediately. The word contamination rippled through the crowd like infection itself. Phones tilted for better angles. The digital audience was growing hungry. Michael's live stream counter climbed past 4,200 viewers. His commentary had evolved into performance art. Guys, this is absolutely insane. Rich people's charity drama is different. We've got hotel management, security, and this lady just refuses to leave. He panned across the growing crowd. Like, seriously, read the room, lady. Comments flooded faster than slot machine reels. Main character syndrome. Someone should drag her out. Call the police for trespassing. This is uncomfortable, but I can't stop watching. Why won't she just go? Mental illness on display. 10 p.m. 10 minutes until keynote 4. Security guards materialized from different corners of the ballroom. Not the usual hotel security. These wore black suits with discreet earpieces, private contractors, the expensive kind. The lead guard, built like a linebacker compressed into formal wear, approached with measured steps. "Ma'am, I need you to come with us quietly. No need to make this more difficult." The circle tightened. 70 guests now, all holding devices, all documenting. The modern Coliseum had reached capacity. Jessica Sinclair beckoned a server with imperial fingers. "Champagne. Bring the Dom Perignon. We need to celebrate maintaining our event's vintage quality." The server hurried away, returning with crystal flutes filled with golden bubbles. Jessica distributed glasses to her family and selected inner circle guests. "A toast," she announced loudly enough for every camera to capture, "to exclusive vintages and exclusive events." 30 crystal flutes rose in unison like a forest of glass spears. The visual was devastating, sparkling wine held high like weapons against one woman in a stained dress. Maya stood perfectly still in the center of their circle, wine-darkened fabric clinging to her chest like evidence of guilt. Her phone buzzed. David again. "Ma'am, wine incident is trending #2 nationally. CNN picked it up. Should I deploy crisis management?" She typed back, "Not yet." Let them peek. Richard Sinclair consulted his watch with theatrical precision. 8 minutes remaining. Perhaps we should expedite this process. He nodded to the lead security guard, who stepped forward with professional authority. "Ma'am, I need you to surrender your phone and come with us immediately. This is private property, and you're creating a disturbance." Maya's fingers found her clutch again. "May I make one phone call before we proceed?" "Absolutely not," Victoria interjected with sharp finality. "No phone calls, no delays, no drama. Security, escort this person out immediately." The 4 guards formed a tighter perimeter. The crowd pressed closer like spectators at a public execution. Maya could smell the collective breath of 70 people watching her destruction. Champagne and contempt mingled in the air. 10:02 p.m., 8 minutes until keynote. The ballroom's massive screens flickered to life, displaying the Sinclair Foundation logo. Keynote preparation was beginning. Staff members hurried across the periphery, setting up microphones and checking lighting. But nobody moved toward their seats. The real entertainment was happening right here. Victoria turned to address the crowd with the confidence of someone accustomed to commanding attention. "You know what this represents?" She gestured at Maya like a museum curator explaining an exhibit. "The complete breakdown of social order. When standards disappear, chaos follows." Her voice gained momentum, feeding on the audience's energy. "Our grandparents built America through discipline, excellence, and knowing one's place. This generation? They believe participation trophies qualify them for championship games." Applause rippled through the crowd. Someone called out, "Tell her, Victoria!" Maya's phone vibrated in her clutch. The caller ID read, "Singapore office, urgent." She declined the call. Richard raised his champagne higher. 7 minutes. Surely professional security can remove one disruptive individual in 7 minutes. The lead guard reached for Maya's arm. "Wait," Maya said quietly. Her voice was so calm it cut through the noise like silence itself. Everyone turned to look at her. "I understand your position completely, but I believe there's been a significant miscommunication about my presence here tonight. Victoria's laugh could have shattered crystal chandeliers. Miscommunication? The only communication happening is you leaving. Now. 10:04 p.m., 6 minutes until keynote. Maya's phone buzzed again. This time she glanced at the screen. The message was brief. All wine import systems ready. Legal clearance confirmed. Authorization code accepted. Standing by for execution. Patricia Kim, General Counsel. She looked up at the circle of faces surrounding her, phones recording from every angle, security guards positioning for removal, the Sinclair family holding champagne like victory trophies. I really do need to make that phone call now, Maya said. Her tone hadn't changed, but something else had crept in. Something that made the security guards pause. Jessica stepped forward, champagne sloshing. No phone calls. No delays. No dash. She stopped mid-sentence. Maya had pulled out her phone and was scrolling through contacts with deliberate precision. The security guards looked at each other uncertainly. Their job was to remove disruptive guests, not wrestle phones from women in evening wear. Victoria sensed the hesitation and moved to fill the leadership vacuum. Officers, I'm authorizing you to use whatever force necessary to remove this trespasser immediately. The Sinclair Foundation will cover any legal complications. Maya found the contact she was looking for. Her finger hovered over the call button. 10:06 p.m., 4 minutes until keynote. The ballroom had gone completely silent except for ambient ventilation and distant kitchen activity. Even the live stream comments had slowed, as if the digital audience sensed something significant approaching. Maya looked up from her phone and surveyed the faces surrounding her. Security guards tensed for action. The Sinclair family gripped their champagne flutes like weapons. 70 guests held their breath. You know, Maya said quietly, wine is supposed to bring people together. It's a symbol of celebration, of community, of shared humanity. She gestured at her stained dress. You've turned it into something ugly. Victoria's eyes flashed with triumph. More philosophical nonsense. Officers, remove this person immediately. Maya pressed the call button and activated the speakerphone in one smooth motion. The phone began to ring. 10:07 p.m., 3 minutes until keynote. Patricia, Maya said into the phone before anyone could answer, I'm at the Sinclair Foundation event. I need you to execute Protocol 7 immediately. The phone was still ringing. Victoria lunged for the device. Give me that. The phone connected. A crisp, professional voice filled the ballroom through the speaker. Johnson Holdings Legal Department, this is Patricia Kim, General Counsel. How may I assist you this evening, Miss Johnson? The champagne flutes stopped clinking. Maya spoke clearly, her words carrying to every corner of the silent ballroom. Patricia, please execute immediate termination of all Sinclair Group wine import contracts. Authorization code, Thunderbird 7. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered against the marble floor. 10:07 p.m. The phone call that changed everything, Patricia Kim's voice cut through the ballroom silence with surgical precision. Ma'am, that includes 847 active wine import contracts worth $1.2 billion annually. Shall I proceed with immediate termination? The words hit the Sinclair family like physical blows. Victoria's face transformed, color draining from her cheeks as if someone had opened a valve. Her hands began to tremble, champagne-sticky fingers grasping at air. Richard's Patek Philippe slipped from his wrist, clattering against marble with the sound of falling empires. Jessica's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, like a fish drowning in air. Michael's live stream captured it all. 4,847 viewers watching the precise moment when predators realized they had cornered the wrong prey. Maya's voice remained steady as bedrock. Yes, Patricia. Execute termination protocols immediately. Also, cancel the Sinclair Foundation's preferred vendor status across all Johnson Holdings subsidiaries. The crowd of 70 guests stood frozen, phones still recording but hands shaking. Someone whispered, "Johnson Holdings. That's..." A woman in Chanel Googled frantically on her phone. Her gasp was audible. Forbes lists her net worth at $4.7 billion. 10:08 p.m. Reality crashes down. Wait. Victoria's voice cracked like thin ice. You can't be... Maya turned to face her directly, wine stain and all. Maya Johnson, CEO of Johnson Holdings Wine and Hospitality Empire. The contamination you've been so concerned about removing. The security guards stepped back instinctively. You don't manhandle billionaires, not if you want to keep working in this city. Patricia's voice continued through the speaker with devastating efficiency. Ma'am, I should note that Sinclair Group's wine division represents 23% of their total annual revenue. This action will trigger immediate liquidity concerns. Richard found his voice, hoarse with desperation. Maya, there's been a terrible mistake. Misunderstanding. Has there? Maya's tone remained conversational. Because I heard your exact words quite clearly. Disgusting parasites shouldn't contaminate decent people. Did I misunderstand that? Michael's phone trembled in his hands. His live stream comments were exploding. Holy shit, she's a billionaire. This just became the most expensive bullying video ever. They're so fucked. Delete the stream, bro. Delete it. Someone screen record this now. 10:09 p.m. The wine empire reveals itself. Maya walked calmly to where Jessica had thrown her platinum card holder earlier. She picked it up, brushing off crystal fragments from Victoria's shattered champagne glass. This isn't counterfeit Cartier, she said, holding it up to catch the chandelier light. It's custom Johnson Holdings Executive Platinum. Only 12 exist worldwide. She opened it slowly, revealing business cards that caught light like precious metal. Patricia, could you please explain to our audience exactly which vineyards Johnson Holdings owns? Patricia's voice filled the ballroom like a legal briefing. Certainly. Johnson Holdings Wine Division owns controlling interests in 23 French chateaux, including Chateau Margaux, Chateau Latour, and Chateau Petrus. We also control 67% of California's premium wine production and 34% of Italian Chianti exports. Victoria's remaining champagne glass fell from nerveless fingers, joining its shattered predecessor on marble that now looked like a battlefield. That Chateau Margaux you spilled on my dress? Maya's voice carried a hint of amusement. My vineyard in Bordeaux produced it. The bottle cost $300. The vineyard that made it? I bought that for $847 million in 2019. The crowd had gone completely silent except for the rapid clicking of phone cameras capturing every moment of the reversal. Marcus Wells, the gala manager, was frantically texting someone. His face had gone pale as parchment. The Johnson Holdings subsidiary that owned this hotel chain was about to get very interesting legal correspondence. 10:10 p.m. The depth of their mistake becomes clear. Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced at it casually. That's interesting. Patricia, it appears CNN, Fox News, and The Washington Post all want statements about tonight's events. Should I take their calls? Ma'am, Patricia's voice carried professional concern. I should mention that Mr. Sinclair's comments have been captured on 47 different live streams and uploaded to social media platforms with a combined reach of 2.3 million views in the last 8 minutes. Jessica finally found her voice, though it came out as a whisper. Maya, please. We didn't know. Didn't know what? Maya's question hung in the air like a sword. That I was human? That I deserved basic respect? Or just that I had the power to respond? Her phone showed another incoming call. The caller ID was visible to everyone in the front row. Jeff Bezos, personal. Maya declined the call, but not before letting them see it. Patricia, let's review the Singapore acquisition while we're here. The $890 million renewable energy project with Sinclair Group as primary contractor. Victoria's legs nearly buckled. Richard caught her arm to steady her. That project represents 34% of Sinclair Group's projected revenue for the next 3 years, Patricia's voice continued with clinical precision. The termination clause allows for immediate cancellation with 48-hour notice for breach of professional conduct standards. 10:11 p.m. The final pieces fall into place. Maya's assistant David appeared as if summoned, flanked by 2 individuals in impeccable suits carrying leather portfolios. Legal reinforcements. Ms. Johnson, David spoke quietly but audibly, your 9:30 a.m. meeting with the UN Climate Council has been moved to accommodate tonight's situation. They're very interested in hearing about corporate accountability in the hospitality sector. Victoria finally spoke, her voice breaking. Maya, please. I'm begging you. There are thousands of jobs at stake, pension funds, families. Maya studied her for a long moment. The ballroom held its collective breath. You're right, Victoria. There are families at stake. Thousands of employees who depend on Sinclair Group, which is exactly why I want to have a conversation with you about how this situation can be resolved. She turned to address the crowd of stunned guests, many of whom were discreetly Googling Johnson Holdings on their phones. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe there's been a significant miscommunication this evening. I came here as a donor and partner to support the Sinclair Foundation's important work. Instead, I've witnessed behavior that fundamentally contradicts the values that make charitable work meaningful. Her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to addressing boardrooms and United Nations committees. However, I believe in the power of education over elimination, accountability over destruction. Patricia's voice cut in from the phone. Ma'am, I have the termination documents prepared and 12 legal jurisdictions standing by. Do you want me to proceed with full contract cancellation? Maya paused deliberately, letting the weight of the moment settle over everyone present. Victoria was crying now, mascara running in dark streams down her face. Richard looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Jessica stared at the wine-stained marble where her family's empire was cracking apart. Michael's live stream had reached 6,200 viewers, all watching the most expensive comeuppance in social media history. Patricia, Maya said finally, hold all termination orders. I want to give the Sinclair family an opportunity to demonstrate that tonight was an aberration, not a reflection of their true values. Victoria's sob of relief was audible throughout the ballroom. However, Maya continued, her voice hardening slightly, this opportunity comes with very specific conditions. 10:12 p.m. The terms of survival. Maya gestured to David, who immediately produced a tablet displaying crisp financial data. The screen was visible to the front rows of stunned guests, many of whom leaned forward despite themselves. Let's review the scope of our business relationship, Maya said, her voice carrying the practiced authority of someone who had destroyed competitors with spreadsheets. The tablet showed a comprehensive breakdown that made Victoria's face go even whiter. Sinclair Group dependencies on Johnson Holdings. Wine imports and distribution, $340 million annually. Hospitality equipment, leasing, $185 million annually. Renewable energy partnerships, $156 million annually. Real estate joint ventures, $92 million annually. Total annual revenue dependency, $773 million. 23% of your total income, Maya stated matter-of-factly. Patricia, could you explain the legal mechanisms available to us? Patricia's voice cut through the ballroom with surgical precision. All 847 contracts include Clause 47B, termination for cause, including material breach of professional conduct standards that reflect negatively on Johnson Holdings' reputation. Richard Sinclair's lawyer instincts kicked in, even through his panic. Maya, that clause was designed for supply chain violations, not personal disagreements. Maya's smile was colder than winter. The clause specifically mentions public behavior by partners that damages Johnson Holdings' brand integrity. I have 47 live streams, 2.3 million social media impressions, and trending hashtags as evidence. She turned to address the crowd, which had swelled to nearly 100 guests, abandoning their assigned seats for front-row views of corporate warfare. Ladies and gentlemen, you've all witnessed what happened here tonight. The question now is whether the Sinclair family can demonstrate that their actions were an aberration rather than a reflection of their true corporate values. 10:14 p.m. The ultimatum. Maya's phone lit up with another call. This time she answered it on speaker without checking the caller ID. Maya, darling, I just saw the most extraordinary footage on social media. The voice was unmistakably British, unmistakably aristocratic. Is everything quite all right? Victoria's eyes widened in recognition. Even she knew that voice. Baron Rothschild, Maya said calmly. I'm handling a business etiquette situation. Could I ring you back in an hour? Of course, my dear. Though I must say, the footage of those dreadful people throwing wine at you has rather put me off the Sinclair account. Shall we discuss alternative partnerships for the Bordeaux Consortium? Maya glanced at Victoria, whose mascara-streaked face now resembled a portrait of financial ruin. Let's discuss that shortly, Baron. Thank you for calling. She ended the call and turned back to the Sinclair family. As I was saying, you have choices. 2 choices, to be precise. David handed her a second tablet, this one displaying a formal document with Johnson Holdings letterhead. Option 1, Comprehensive Accountability Program. Maya read the terms aloud with the precision of a prosecutor delivering charges. 1. Public acknowledgement and formal apology from each member of the Sinclair family, to be published in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and Washington Post within 72 hours. Victoria opened her mouth to speak, but Maya continued without pause. 2. Immediate donation of $2 million to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, sourced directly from Sinclair Wine Division profits. Jessica's gasp was audible. That represented nearly a quarter of their wine division's annual profit margin. 3. Mandatory unconscious bias training for all Sinclair Group executives, conducted by Harvard Business School's Diversity and Inclusion Institute. This is non-negotiable and will be completed within 90 days. Richard's hands were shaking as he reached for his phone, likely calculating the PR costs. 4. Public commitment to measurable diversity targets. 30% minority representation in executive positions by December 2026, with quarterly progress reports made publicly available. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Several guests were discreetly taking notes. 5. Establishment of the Johnson Sinclair Hospitality Ethics Fund, a $10 million endowment supporting minority-owned businesses in the wine and hospitality sectors. Victoria's sob escaped before she could suppress it. Maya, please. Maya's voice remained level. I'm not finished. 6. All Sinclair Group hospitality venues will implement the Johnson Protocol for Bias Incident Reporting, anonymous systems for employees and customers to report discriminatory treatment. She paused, letting the weight of the requirements sink in. Option 1 allows Johnson Holdings to continue all current contracts while monitoring your compliance with these accountability measures. 10:17 p.m. The nuclear option. Maya scrolled to the second document with deliberate slowness. Option 2 is significantly simpler, she said, her tone suggesting that simplicity was not necessarily preferable. Option 2, complete business divorce. Immediate termination of all 847 contracts within 48 hours, per the professional conduct clauses you signed. This includes... Patricia's voice joined Maya's, creating a stereo effect of corporate devastation. Cancellation of $34 million in prepaid wine shipments with no refund provisions. Loss of exclusive access to Johnson Holdings vineyards, affecting 67% of your premium wine inventory. Termination of the Singapore Renewable Energy Project, representing $890 million in projected revenue over 3 years. Public statement from Johnson Holdings explaining relationship termination due to fundamental incompatibility of corporate values. Maya looked up from the tablet to meet Victoria's desperate eyes. I should mention that Johnson Holdings has partnerships with 847 other companies, including Tesla, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. Combined partnership value, $2.3 billion annually. David stepped forward with a third tablet. Ms. Johnson, you have 7 calls from Fortune 500 CEOs asking about the live stream footage. Should I conference them in? The threat was clear. Maya didn't need to destroy Sinclair Group directly. She could simply let her business network know that the Sinclair family considered discriminatory behavior acceptable. 10:19 p.m. The decision point. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message visible to the front row. UN Ethics Committee requesting emergency session regarding corporate accountability standards in hospitality sector. Secretary General's office. Victoria fell to her knees on the wine-stained marble, her $10,000 Valentino gown pooling around her like defeat itself. Maya, I'm begging you. I chose option 1. I choose accountability. I'm deeply, truly sorry for what happened here tonight. Her voice broke completely. I was wrong. Completely, horribly wrong. You didn't deserve any of that treatment. No one deserves that treatment. Richard stepped forward, his corporate composure cracking. Maya, Victoria speaks for all of us. We choose option 1. We'll comply with every requirement. Jessica nodded frantically, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Maya. I'm so sorry for everything I said. Michael had stopped his live stream entirely, his phone face down on a nearby table like evidence he wanted to hide. Maya studied their faces for a long moment, the ballroom holding its collective breath. Words are important, she said finally, but actions matter more. Patricia, prepare the option 1 compliance documents with full legal monitoring provisions. Immediately, ma'am. Standard Johnson Holdings accountability protocols with quarterly reviews? Yes, full transparency, public tracking. And Patricia? Include performance bonds. If they fail to meet any requirement, the financial penalties should reflect the seriousness of their commitments. Victoria's relief was visible, but so was her understanding that this was not mercy, it was managed accountability. 10:21 p.m. The new reality. Maya's assistant approached with a final document. Ms. Johnson, the compliance monitoring agreement is ready for signatures. Legal has included automatic penalty clauses and third-party oversight provisions. Maya turned to address the crowd of nearly 150 guests who had gathered to witness the most expensive corporate accountability session in charity gala history. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed tonight represents a choice point. We can use our influence and resources to maintain systems that harm people, or we can create accountability that transforms entire industries. Her voice carried the weight of someone who had built empires through strategic thinking rather than inherited privilege. The Sinclair family has chosen transformation over destruction. I hope their example inspires broader change in how we treat each other in professional settings. Patricia's voice cut in one final time. Ms. Johnson, all termination orders are officially suspended pending successful completion of the accountability program. Monitoring systems are active as of midnight tonight. Maya nodded to Victoria, who was still kneeling on marble stained with wine and tears. Victoria, you have 365 days to prove that tonight was your worst moment, not your true character. 6 months later. The transformation. The Wall Street Journal headline read, "The Wine Incident That Reformed Corporate America." The article featured a photo of Victoria Sinclair serving lunch at a homeless shelter in Houston, her manicured hands ladling soup into plastic bowls. Maya Johnson sat in her corner office overlooking Manhattan, reviewing the quarterly compliance report David had prepared. The numbers told a story of systematic transformation that had rippled far beyond the Sinclair family. Sinclair Group, 180-day compliance report. The data was remarkable. Victoria had completed 127 of her required 200 community service hours, working with 3 different organizations serving underprivileged communities. Her public apology videos had generated 12.3 million views across platforms, becoming case studies in corporate accountability communication. Jessica Sinclair had established the first minority-majority executive board in oil industry history. Her Harvard bias training had been so comprehensive that she'd become a guest lecturer, sharing her transformation story with MBA students who studied the wine incident as required curriculum. Richard's legal expertise had been redirected toward drafting the Sinclair Standards, a comprehensive anti-discrimination framework that 247 Fortune 500 companies had voluntarily adopted. His transformation from enabler to advocate had been documented by Harvard Business Review in a 3-part series. Even Michael had found purpose, converting his social media following into a platform for corporate accountability. His Privilege Check series had reached 2.1 million subscribers, with episodes featuring other executives sharing their biased transformation stories. The Johnson Protocol expansion, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Patricia Kim. UN Ethics Committee voted unanimously. Johnson Protocol now mandatory for all companies seeking international trade certification. 89 countries participating. The wine incident had triggered something unprecedented: global corporate accountability standards with enforcement mechanisms. Companies couldn't simply issue hollow apologies anymore. They needed measurable, monitored change. Maya's assistant David knocked and entered with a stack of partnership requests. "Ms. Johnson, we've received 1,247 new partnership applications from companies wanting to demonstrate their commitment to the Johnson Protocol. Tesla wants to expand our collaboration. Microsoft is requesting ethics consulting. Apple wants you to keynote their diversity summit." The wine stain that had marked Maya's dress that night had become a symbol of transformation rather than humiliation. Fashion magazines had featured the wine dress as Time's fashion statement of the year, not for its designer label, but for its representation of dignity under attack. The Sinclair Foundation Renaissance. Victoria's voice came through Maya's office speakers via video conference from the Sinclair Foundation's renovated headquarters. The background showed a diverse staff working at desks, a stark contrast to the lily-white charity gala of 6 months ago. "Maya, I wanted to update you personally on our progress," Victoria said, her voice carrying a humility that would have been impossible to imagine that night. The Johnson Sinclair Hospitality Ethics Fund has approved its first 23 grants, totaling $3.7 million to minority-owned wine and hospitality businesses. Maya could see the change in Victoria's face. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked like genuine purpose. "The impact has been extraordinary," Victoria continued. "We've created 847 new jobs, supported 156 minority-owned businesses, and established mentorship programs in 12 states. Our annual donation total increased by 340% because people trust our transformation." Patricia Kim joined the call from Johnson Holdings' legal department. "Victoria, your compliance scores are exceptional. 0 violations in 6 months. Your team has exceeded every diversity target by significant margins. Industry-wide transformation data." Maya pulled up the comprehensive impact assessment on her main screen. The wine incident. Global impact. 180 days. 2,847 companies adopted bias reporting systems, $12.7 billion redirected to minority-owned businesses. 156 universities now teach strategic accountability courses. 89 countries implemented corporate conduct standards. Bias incident reporting apps downloaded 4.2 million times. The numbers represented real change, not corporate theater. Maya had used strategic patience over emotional revenge, and the results spoke for themselves. David, Maya said, reviewing the quarterly impact reports, scheduled meetings with the UN Ethics Committee, the World Economic Forum, and the Harvard Business Review. I want to discuss expanding the Johnson Protocol to include environmental accountability. Her approach was working. Instead of destroying one family, she'd created systemic change that protected thousands of future victims. Personal redemption stories. Maya's phone displayed a notification. New video message from Jessica Sinclair. She played it on her office screen. Jessica appeared professional but humble, standing in what looked like a community college classroom. Behind her, the whiteboard read, "Unconscious Bias in Corporate Leadership, Guest Lecture Series." Maya, I wanted to share something with you personally. Last week, I spoke to 347 business students about the wine incident. One young woman, a scholarship student from the same community I had mocked, came up to me afterward. Jessica's voice caught slightly. She said watching my transformation gave her hope that corporate America could change. She's now interning at Sinclair Group through our new minority leadership pipeline. The video continued with statistics. Jessica had hired 23 minority executives, established 5 scholarship programs, and personally mentored 67 young professionals from underrepresented communities. I know I can never undo that night, Jessica concluded, but I can spend the rest of my career proving it wasn't who I really am. Thank you for giving me that chance. Maya closed the video, feeling something she hadn't expected, genuine respect for Jessica's transformation journey. The global ripple effect Maya's calendar showed her next appointment. A video conference with CEOs from 12 countries discussing the International Corporate Accountability Compact. The wine incident had become the catalyst for binding global standards. Her phone rang. The caller ID showed President Biden, official. Ms. Johnson, the president's voice was warm but serious. I'm calling to discuss the Corporate Accountability Executive Order we're drafting. Your Johnson Protocol has become the gold standard. We'd like your input on making these standards federal law. Maya leaned back in her chair, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. 6 months ago, she'd been humiliated in a ballroom full of strangers. Today, she was helping reshape how American businesses treated their employees and partners. Mr. President, I'd be honored to contribute. But I want to ensure the standards have real enforcement mechanisms, not just symbolic gestures. Agreed completely. Patricia Kim from your legal team has already provided us with draft enforcement language that's stronger than anything we initially conceived. The wine industry transformation. A new notification appeared on Maya's screen. Bordeaux Wine Consortium Annual Report. She opened it, curious about the wine industry's response to the incident. The report was remarkable. French vineyards had established the Johnson standards for hospitality mandatory diversity training for all staff, bias incident reporting systems, and partnership requirements with minority-owned distributors. Baron Rothschild had personally called Maya 3 times, requesting her consultation on democratizing wine culture. The aristocratic wine industry, historically exclusive and tradition-bound, was opening its doors to unprecedented diversity. The legacy measurement Maya pulled up her personal impact dashboard, something she'd created, to track whether her strategic approach was creating lasting change. Personal accountability. Scorecard. 180 days. Direct job creation. 2,847 positions for underrepresented workers. Policy changes. 89 countries, 1,247 companies. Educational impact. 156 universities teaching her case study. Financial redirection. $12.7 billion to minority businesses. Cultural shift measurement. 67% reduction in reported corporate bias incidents. The numbers validated her approach. Strategic empowerment created broader change than personal revenge ever could. Victoria's voice came through the intercom again. Maya, I have one more update. The Sinclair Foundation Board voted unanimously to rename our annual gala the Johnson Awards for Corporate Accountability. We want to honor companies that demonstrate measurable commitment to inclusion. Maya smiled, remembering the wine-stained marble, the champagne held like weapons, the circle of phones recording her humiliation. Victoria, I think that's a beautiful way to honor what we learned that night. Wine should bring people together, not tear them apart. The intellectual victory. Maya's final meeting of the day was with her memoir, Ghostwriter. The book, tentatively titled Strategic Grace, How One Phone Call Changed Corporate America, was scheduled for publication next year. The key message, Maya told the writer, isn't about my personal victory. It's about proving that strategic patience creates better outcomes than emotional retaliation. She pulled up the incident video on her computer, the one that had launched a global movement. Watching it now, she felt proud of her restraint. She could have destroyed the Sinclair family that night. Instead, she'd transformed them into advocates. True power, Maya concluded, isn't about dominating someone who wronged you. It's about creating systems that prevent the same harm from happening to others. The wine stain was gone. The legacy was permanent. 1 year later, the legacy lives. Maya Johnson stood at the podium of the United Nations General Assembly, addressing representatives from 193 countries. The same woman who had wine thrown on her dress now commanded global attention on corporate accountability. The wine incident taught us that discrimination isn't just about individual prejudice. Maya's voice carried across the assembly hall. It's about systems that enable harm and the courage required to transform those systems. Behind her, the giant screen displayed the Johnson Protocol logo, now recognized in 127 countries as the gold standard for corporate ethics. The numbers spoke for themselves. One phone call had become a global movement. Final impact. Scorecard. 365 days. 4,847 companies implementing bias accountability systems. $47.3 billion redirected to minority-owned businesses globally. Zero-tolerance policies adopted by 89% of Fortune 500 companies. 12.7 million jobs created through inclusive business practices. The personal transformation. Victoria Sinclair sat in the front row of the UN Assembly, no longer the wine-throwing aristocrat, but an internationally recognized advocate for corporate reform. Her biography, From Privilege to Purpose, had become required reading in business schools worldwide. The Sinclair family's transformation remained the most documented corporate accountability success story in history. Their wine division had actually increased profits by 340% after implementing inclusive practices, proving that diversity wasn't just morally right, it was financially smart. Values that changed the world. Maya's approach had demonstrated something revolutionary. Strategic accountability creates lasting change, while emotional retaliation only creates temporary satisfaction. Every executive who studied the wine incident learned the same lesson: true power lies in transforming your attackers into advocates, not destroying them. The wine that was meant to stain Maya's reputation had instead stained the conscience of corporate America. Her dignified response had shown that grace under pressure generates more power than rage under fire. Social legacy expanding. The Johnson Protocol had evolved beyond corporate settings. Universities taught strategic empowerment courses. High schools included bias accountability and leadership curricula. Even elementary schools used simplified versions to teach conflict resolution. Maya's philosophy, change the system, not just the moment, had become a hashtag used 23.7 million times across social platforms. Your voice in this movement, Maya concluded her UN address by looking directly into the cameras, broadcasting to 2.1 billion viewers worldwide. Every person watching this has witnessed discrimination. In boardrooms, restaurants, schools, or social settings, you have a choice. Stay silent or create accountability. Take action today. Share your story. Have you witnessed bias in professional settings? Your experience matters. Comment below and help document patterns that need addressing. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more stories proving that strategic empowerment defeats destructive prejudice. Use your influence. However small your platform, you can demand better treatment for everyone around you. Support systematic change. Follow companies that implement real accountability measures, not just empty promises. Remember the lesson. Maya didn't destroy her attackers. She transformed them into allies. Strategic patience creates permanent change, while emotional revenge creates temporary satisfaction. Question for reflection. When you face discrimination or witness it happening to others, will you choose the path of strategic empowerment or silent complicity? The wine has been cleaned up. The lesson is eternal. Share this story. Subscribe for more. Transform your world. Strategic accountability. Johnson Protocol. Corporate justice. Wine incident. Accountability over revenge.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.